Mics are on. Well, we should be good now.
Test,
Okay.
test.
Ready? Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order. It is 6 p.m. I'll call to order the Wenham Select Board meeting for June 9th, 2026. Just a quick roll call. In attendance, myself, Deirdre Parati,
Ben Timon.
Finn Sprague.
and Peter Clay will not be joining us this evening. And for the public's information, we did not hold our executive session at 6 p.m. We did not have quorum at 6 p.m., so that will be rescheduled for another date. So this evening, we will start with public input. If anyone is here to make a public comment on an item that is not on the agenda this evening, I'd like to invite you to come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Anybody? Michelle? Good? All righty. Okay, so we will go to reports and announcements, and Steve is going to start.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as most are aware or received a recycling tote yesterday that was unexpected. So the short of it is that Casella, our waste manager, contracts with a third party to procure these recycling totes. And since we're in a partnership with the town of Hamilton, the totes have been received from the third-party vendor, and Hamilton authorized the delivery, and we had told them not to deliver them. However, the third-party vendor, I guess just a misunderstanding, thought that, they were just, the guys who were in the truck thought they were delivering them all, and some got delivered to the town of Wenham. So we've we found that up. We called Casella. Casella called their vendor and stopped the delivery, so they're being held, and they'll be delivered at a later date. And long and short of it is the service will remain the same. You're still going to get the recycling picked up. The difference being is that the container is automated friendly, so that when the trucks move to a fully automated setup, these bins will be able to be picked up by the hydraulic arm and dumped into the recycling truck. We definitely will give any, the update. The plan was always and still is to do like some sort of a postcard mailer once the contract is solidified that the select board is very close to signing. It will be brought before them at their meeting in 2 weeks, and to itemize the dates of any changes into, send out a postcard or something similar to every household so you're aware of any changes in the dates and the timeline. So this was just a little bump in the transition road. However, no changes are taking place immediately, and there'll be no changes at all until you've received notification.
Thank you, Steve.
A couple more updates. So Kate Mallory notified me today that we have successfully acquired and finalized the Streeter conservation restriction, so 115.5 acres. The town of Wenham now holds a conservation restriction on that in perpetuity. So, well done to all involved. We also, you'll see as you move you'll see the agenda was amended, and we amended in part to remove Jeff Baxter from the appointments, the annual appointments. Jeff just recently submitted his retirement notice, so we're going to be planning a farewell to him. He was with the town of Wenham or is still with the town, but has been with the town for 28 years. And I'm working with the fire chief to identify alternate appointments, and those will come back before the select board before the end of the fiscal year. I also wanted to point out we get Yeah, I work with through Sally Kern's office every year and request a number of earmarks through the state's budget, and we have gotten a number of earmarks over the last 5 years. However, they've always been cut by the governor early in the state's fiscal year. But we did receive. We were lucky enough to receive some funds for the first time, and that's for the, if you see behind the fire department, we have 2 new rescue boats. The other one had to be retired. The hull was waterlogged. The engine did not run well. So the new one is a nice aluminum boat, probably 17 or 18 feet in length. And the other one is a 10-foot with a 3.5 horse on it for some of our smaller lakes. So those funds did come through. I thank Sally Cairns for going to bat for us. And we were able to acquire those, and they're behind the fire department right now. This year we do have earmarks they've been appropriated due to the immediate need. They've been appropriated at town meeting through capital. But the Cemetery Commission requested some historic archival software and GIS tracking for their cemetery platform, and also seniors, the senior care software. Jim Reynolds and his team are looking to expand the use on that to better serve our seniors through the van and ride sharing program. So both those are earmarked. We're hoping to get at least one. But again, we did appropriate a town meeting, so should we not receive the earmarks, we're still moving forward with the purchase. Should we receive the earmark, we will just simply reappropriate those funds for a different use at a future town meeting. And that is all I have for you this evening. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Steve. I'll just reiterate what Steve said, that we, on behalf of the town, we apologize for the confusion with the recycle totes. It will be straightened out, as you heard, and we do appreciate all the residents who let us know what was happening so that we could investigate. All right, I would just like to thank Martha Brennan, the Human Rights Committee, for the organization and holding the event last week for the Pride flag raising. It was a lovely event, very well attended. We had people from Hamilton join us as well, and their Human Rights Committee, and it was a very wonderful event. So thank you to all who participated and who attended the event. And that's all for me. Ben?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Wenham Veterans Committee this morning at its monthly meeting hosted 3 local high school graduates who are joining the service. 2 are from Wenham and 1 is from Hamilton, but we invited him as well. It was a really nice event. It was an opportunity for veterans, members of the Veterans Committee, some of whom are 90 years old plus, and so have experience in military service, Vietnam and earlier in some cases, a chance for them to meet these 3 young people, to answer questions, to hear from each other about their experiences, and to hear from the students about their plans. The 3 students are Philip Mastranzi, who lives here in Wenham and graduated from St. John's Prep in September. He's going to West Point. Finn DiBiase is a St. John's Prep graduate as well from just over the line in Hamilton. He's going to the Naval Academy. And Marissa Siebert, who graduated from Hamilton Wenham High School, and she is joining the Marines. So we got to hear from them. Marissa is going to boot camp at Paris Island in South Carolina in August, which makes me want to collapse just thinking about it. But so these are really excellent students and a credit to their community, and it was a nice, as I say, nice opportunity for the Veterans Committee to recognize them and meet them, and for there to be a discussion amongst them. Tim's colleague Emma from the Hamilton News was there, and I think is going to write a story about it this Friday, so you'll be able to see some of that and read more about it. That's it for me.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Sure.
Finn?
Thank you. So The only thing I'm going to talk about is that we heard from Eric Tracy, Superintendent Tracy, about a draft long-term strategic plan that the district put together. Notable to me was that there are kind of guidelines on the facilities, kind of expectations about standards, but nothing really specific about what they're going to do. In fact, they spoke about a plan to make a plan, really, with money that there's going to be spent on a facilities audit, and establishing kind of an overall facilities master plan. They talked about aligning that with the Hamilton and Wenham town master plans. And there are some other things in there. It's a fairly involved document talking about, communicating in more plain language to the citizens and receiving feedback more regularly, along with kind of educational standards and a digital world, that sort of stuff. Considering the impact that the last time we went through that cycle had on the town, I recommend that we invite Mr. Tracy to come and kind of more formally present that, the results of that, 6 months effort with 20 people in the community trying to put this together. So I'd like to hear about it. So that's my recommendation. Thank you.
Great, that's a great idea. Thank you, Finn. Okay, with that, we will move to the consent agenda. We do not need to read the list in its entirety, correct?
Nope, I just want to call to note it's in the, excuse me, in the motion, but the police chief came with a couple last-minute changes on the appointments, so you'll see the agenda references those and makes the correction that differ from how they are printed in the agenda.
Okay, thank you. So the list is printed in the agenda. If you would like to reference it, this is the annual appointments for mostly town employees. So would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to move to approve items A through D as printed in this evening's consent agenda with the following revisions. Emergency Management Deputy will be Kevin DiNapoli and Sergeant John Phillips.
Do we have a
One
second?
more on the-
And then we have Special Officer Michael Misizik.
Second.
All right. Oh, and apologies. There's also the appointment of Julie Holbrook to the WISH Committee and a one-day liquor license for the First Church. Okay, we'll take a vote. Finn?
I'll vote aye.
Ben?
Ben, aye.
Deirdre, aye. All right, motion passes. And we will go on, oops, sorry. We now have a very wonderful presentation, I'm sure. We are going to hear from Molly Corson from the Ipswich River Watershed Association, and Kate Mallory, our Land Use Director, on the Miles River Watershed Action Plan, which we have funding from the Mass Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. So I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Is this working? Can you hear me?
I believe so.
Awesome. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm Molly Corson from the Ipswich River Watershed Association. We've been working in partnership with the town of Wenham on this project, so we're here to give you an overview as we kind of close out the grant process and look forward to next steps. So we can move ahead. Thanks. So just to give you some context, so the Miles River is the largest tributary in the lower watershed to the Ipswich River watershed, which Wenham is a part of. So you can kind of see the outline of that area here, but it also reaches down into Beverly, goes through Hamilton, and meets up with the Ipswich River in Ipswich. So this project, while it started between the town of Wenham and Irwa, was also really geared towards looking at the entire watershed itself, because we are all connected. Next slide. And it actually was mentioned specifically in Hamilton or Wenham's hazard mitigation and MVP plan. This is how we kind of came to this idea that restoration of the Miles River is a priority, and it kind of describes the river as it flows through these towns, and it does still provide excellent riparian and wetland habitat, but faces a lot of problems, including low flow, nutrient inputs, and other barriers. So we wanted to take this and really develop some targeted projects and implementation steps that would work for the region. So, in partnership together, we applied for and received funding from the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, that's a mouthful, to support the development of a Miles River Watershed Action Plan that improves the long-term climate resilience of the Miles River. And obviously my PDF fonts did not export nicely. And we also specifically wanted to explore nature-based solutions to environmental concerns. Nature-based solutions aren't the only thing that ended up in this plan, but they were a specific focus of ours as a part of the plan development. And we'll get more into that. As a part of this whole process, we've conducted a lot of community engagement. Some traditional methods, so including a community survey, stakeholder interviews with residents, businesses, organizations up and down the watershed. We also hosted a number of events, including 2 walk-in talks, an event, native seed ball making at the senior center. We had a couple of youth-focused events, including a climate cafe. The lower picture down here is water quality monitoring training and the importance of citizen science to long-term climate resilience. And we actually were able to get a couple of new water quality monitors out of that, and who specifically worked on the Larch Row site throughout this project, which was really great. And then this middle picture on the right here is from our backyard buffers charrette, which was a nature-based solutions focused event with our technical consultant BSC group that actually had folks take an aerial image of their lawn, some sketch paper, and give them the tools to figure out how would you redesign your lawn in a way that reduces your need to water, promotes better habitat, reduces runoff, and helps cleaner water enter the wetlands near your property. Next slide, please. In addition to that, we collected a lot of data. So we did a literature review of existing town plans and looking for overlap in goals and maybe strategies. We looked at high-level water usage of each of the communities because all of them either have water resources within the Miles River subwatershed or the Ipswich River Basin. We looked at water quality data. So we had 3 sites within the watershed that had monthly testing data and additional testing that we conducted an analysis. We created a stream crossing map of all the barriers identified within the whole watershed, and that data is available in a map for communities to use, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. And then again, as I said, we had a particular focus on nature-based solutions, and we worked with a technical consultant BSC group to visit 11 sites in the watershed to look at nature-based approaches to climate resilient in those spaces. So for example, we went to Hull Street, specifically looking at a culvert that's been identified previously as a priority for the town, and the town has gotten funding for preliminary work, but not for full replacement. And so one of the things that came out of our discussion with the consultant is if there's crossings where flooding is an issue, where maybe meeting the full Massachusetts stream crossing standards is not achievable, or maybe whether that's financially or because of other infrastructure surrounding it, what places are doing now is considering how do we redesign roadways to move floodwater during extremely high events? How do we redesign different parts of the culvert to accommodate when high flows happen? And so this is one of those examples where that could be possible here based on where the driveways are located, based on how maybe floodwater could be moved quickly and not allowed to settle. So this could be even a potential option for other location, but it was a very interesting idea that we would have never thought of that came out of this nature-based solution approach. So as a part of the project, we developed an action plan. There are 4 priority action areas, and all of the actions that we recommend fall into one or more of them. And this came out of both the data collection efforts and also the community engagement and qualitative responses that we got. Drought resilience was one of them, and I do think that is probably a reflection of the time that we were doing a lot of our events and engagement. We've been in drought for a while, so it was at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. Water quality and flood management, still a concern. We actually expected that to be more of a concern going into this process based on what we read in the MVP plan, but that switched a little bit kind of with the weather patterns that we're having. Connected, healthy habitats, people really value the space around the river and its tributaries for the habitat that it has, the animals, the plant life, being able to kind of have that resource in their backyards. And then public awareness and education, this is always ongoing. One of the best ways to continue climate resilience and to continue long-term solutions is this constant engagement, which I'm sure you're already aware it's true with almost everything, but many people can grow up in this area and maybe not be aware that the Miles River is in their backyard. So all of our action items kind of fall into one of those buckets. You can go to the next slide, please. Actions, so there's action items in the plan that encompass both what we would consider watershed-wide climate resilience initiatives and specific projects. They can be led in partnership or with one town as a lead, and we worked with municipal contacts in each town on that. But the Miles River Collaborative, which Kate will explain in a minute, may expand upon these in the future. It's really meant to be kind of a guiding document, a starting point with the tools that we have now, and then to help us all continue to work together moving forward. And with that, I will turn it over to Kate.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm Kate Mallory. So Molly and I were thinking, all right, we have this great plan and we have these great strategies that really work for these 4 cities and towns to sustain climate resiliency, but how do we keep this going? So we're at the end of the road here. How do we keep this going? And the answer was creating this Miles River Collaborative. So we got together representatives from Beverly, Hamilton, and Ipswich, and we talked to them and showed them our plan, and we said, would you like to join this collaborative? And it's a commitment that we made that would only be twice a year. And after we went through the plan, and Molly kind of in more detail gave a presentation of what we've been doing, and we've had representatives from these 4 towns working with us along the way. Every single city and town said that they would join the collaborative. So it's pretty amazing. And basically what we're hoping to do is meet once a year with the 4 cities and towns in IRWA, and then the second meeting, meet with other stakeholders as well. So New England Biolabs is one, Appleton Farms, the farmers at Reynolds Farms. We've been talking to all of them throughout this whole process, and they'd also like to be involved. So, the value of this is really the regional problem solving. We all have the same problems. We're all looking at it a little differently between towns and cities and topography. And the strategies that we've put together in this report really work well for this collaboration. So it's pretty exciting. What else it really does is it gives us stronger grant applications and more funding is possible. So, we've seen when we apply for grants, when we get, Wenham's a smaller town, so it doesn't get seen as much as maybe some of the larger cities. And so when we do this regional approach, the idea is that we'll be able to get higher grant funding, but then also it'll be less staff time. For example, Molly, we've already started on this. Molly applied through MAPC for a $40,000 grant on invasives and public education with invasives, teaching residents how to recognize them, how to eradicate them. So if we applied for this just as Wenham, it would take a lot of my time or staff time, which really is impossible with, other things that are bigger priorities. So Molly did all the work for us, and everybody except for, Ipswich, Wenham, and Beverly all sent letters of support and said, yes, we'd like to do this. And so we're hoping for a $40,000 grant that will come in to share with the 3 towns. So this regional approach, really, we think it's a great thing, and less staff time with more resources. So you can't get better than that. Before I end, I really would like to publicly say that Molly has really been the one who did most of this work, I do have to say. And it was so impressive. So if you do have time, we have the website up. Please check it out. It was a really great project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think both of you can take credit. This is a really well-done project, and it seemed like you did it very rapidly, frankly. It seems like we just got the award, so that's extraordinary. Yeah, I believe that. But that's extraordinary progress, and I think this is wonderful, the collaborative that will continue on. Any questions before we go on? All right, thank you both. Okay, next we have a presentation from Ernest Ashley, the chair of our Open Space Committee, about West Wenham Park, and sounds like we may have a name change request, as well as an update on progress for the tennis courts. Thank you, Ernest.
We'll start with the tennis court again.
Okay.
Thank you, Ernest Ashley, representing the Open Space and Recreation Committee. The Select Board gave us a challenge some time ago to look into the dilapidated sport court area of Pingree Park. And so this is somewhat of a lack of progress briefing in that we have started and had a survey, we've reviewed, and we've come up with some concepts of what we're doing. But I think we have reached a point where we want to seek more community input to expand our list of options of what is to be considered. We have heard from the representatives of the boulders who are adjacent to the sport court about some concerns on some projects that are concepts that have been put forward. So nothing has been identified in stone as a recommendation to the Select Board at this time, except that I think we would like to move forward with somewhat of a community event where we would advertise and have an opportunity for people to come to see the sport court area, to share some ideas of what have already been brought forward, as well as gain additional ideas, and then end with somewhat of a more structured survey where we could feel like we had an adequate amount of community input into what we would like to move forward. I believe there's a couple of other slides. So this is the sport court area. It is currently being used more for pickleball than anything else. At one point when we had a meeting, it was brought to our attention that the cracks in this surface are possibly as a result of some of the trees that are around there, but I did walk the court the other day and they're not looking like they're coming specifically from roots into this court, but they're a little bit more random and go all the way across the court. So obviously something needs to be done here. But as I say, it's being used primarily for pickleball at this point. Next slide, please. So this is the area. You can see the courts in the center, the boulders in the property to the lower left, the rest of the park. And the park is very much a multi-generational use facility. There are a couple of swing sets, as well as a younger person's playground, and then all of the fields are being used for everything from youth soccer through baseball. And then you really have two community gardens. There is one that the Hamilton Wenham Community Garden Club is run, has developed, and the other is the former Dodge Tree Farm, where the community garden location is. So we'd really like to add to this entire complex. Next slide, please. So some of the possibilities. One of the things that had been identified is to redo it as 4 tennis courts and overlay with lining. Another was to do 2 tennis courts, 3 pickleball courts, which would fit in one portion of it, and that would leave another optional area for future development. And the one that had been brought to our attention was a proposal for a memorial skateboard park where there was an interest in developing that. It has been done at other communities, Ipswich, Amesbury, Georgetown, and the target demographic again would be someone in between the elementary school style playground and getting in your car and driving off. So that is definitely one of the concepts. That is a significant amount of infrastructure. So once again, I think it's important that we get more community input before moving forward with something like that. Is there another slide for us, Michelle? Okay, so here's some of the ideas that have been thrown. So bicycle riding, skateboarding, well, that gets to something like the skate park. That could also be used with scooters, other things. Street hockey was one concept, which would be on a hard surface. Basketball, but many of these others were just in a survey, but again, that survey wasn't very focused on some of the concrete options that we had looked forward to. Bocce ball, gaga ball was installed at the West Wenham Park. Shuffleboard, other things, you know, some of which would be lower in a capital sense than something like a skateboard park, which would be requiring a good deal of concrete and construction. What else do we have, Michelle? Okay, so the next steps was just to have our presentation and update today. Unfortunately, we were not able to form a quorum for the last couple of meetings we have, so we're a little bit behind schedule in what would be an ideal time frame before school lets out to have more of a community event. Now we feel like we're a little bit behind the eight ball if we tried to organize something where we were getting a lot of people to come out and maybe they're not here for the summertime. But nonetheless, I think engage the community to give us more suggestions and then gauge a level of interest. And then this would be something that, because it is a shared resource at Pingree Park, we feel it would be something that both Hamilton and Wenham would contribute to through the Community Preservation Act. Any questions before we move on?
Yeah, let's pause there for a second. Any comments or questions?
Ernest, I think when you referenced the potential skateboard park, you mentioned a memorial skate park.
I don't have the name right
Okay.
off my head, but anyway, there was an interest brought to the committee more than once, and it had been discussed even when we were talking about West Wenham, but topographically, that wasn't a very good option there, but yes, there's an interest, and there could be something in way of fundraising and additional assistance in kind of helping a project move forward.
Okay. Thank you.
So if I understand right, you're going to try to get back together with a quorum, and then you're going to put together a kind of a more robust kind of schedule to engage the community, come up with some, kind of narrow down the field of ideas, and then, you know, make a more formal sort of presentation of a timeline?
Yes, as far as that event, we were considering that we would have a mailer or direct contact to a radius of the sport court for neighbors to make sure they were informed, as well as to advertise at an event that anyone from the community that was interested in what was being proposed for that, and an opportunity to look at the court, look at the area, and get some additional ideas, and then follow that with a survey distributed at that time and available online to see if we can get a more concrete level of expressed interest. But then from that, we would have to come up with a specific proposal, estimating in rough order of magnitude what the types of costs would be and schedule moving forward. And then we'd have to bring that to the select board, whether that goes to town meeting or not, or just through the CPCs would be the next steps.
What's your, what do you think a reasonable timeline is to get to, a handful of options?
That's where I'd love to back up a month and be able to accomplish a community event in June before the school lets out, but I think I only have another week or so until we can accomplish it. So I'll have to get together with our Open Space and Recreation Committee, and then I would say early fall would be the ideal time for the event, and be able to come back to the select board mid-fall with more specific recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Which might be just enough time to make a CPC deadline in the late fall, so we'll see.
Thank you. We
Possibly.
did speak to the Wenham CPC, and just presented some general ideas of what that we would be coming to them in the future with a request to help work with this park.
Great, and I appreciate you taking this up, and I think this is a great opportunity to add something to the town, potentially.
Underutilized portion. of that.
Underutilized, exactly. Do you know if you are likely to have a vacancy on the committee? Should we be encouraging people to volunteer right now while we have you? I
Yeah,
think
we
it
could-
was full, but maybe we don't know just yet.
I don't
Not sure. Okay.
have the information.
All right, so I will encourage current members and interested potential members to submit applications to be part of the Open Space and Recreation Committee, and this is some really interesting and cool work that you could be involved with. Okay, there's my plug.
Okay.
Okay, now you
Next
have...
slide, next topic, please. Thank you. So our last project was working on the park in West Wenham, and Kate has been working on signage for multiple locations throughout the town, and we are fortunate on our committee, one of them is a graphic artist in Tom Starr, and so these are some of the concepts for the signage for the park. It has been referred to as the West Wenham Park, but it has also been referred to as the Higginson Playground. And the Higginson name is from the greater property that includes the Cedar Ponds, the remnants of what was the Higginson house, and that came to the town through the greater Higginson estate. So back and forth, we found that the West Wenham Park signage didn't look consistent with some of the other signs that are on other properties like this throughout the time, where the name of the person associated with that park was on the sign. Like Pingree Park, like Reynolds Farm. So our concept is that this would be the West Wenham Playground at the Higginson Park. And so our recommendation as a committee is to go with the Higginson Park sign that you see in the left lower portion of this sign. So any comments or any thoughts on that?
I think it looks great, honestly. I love the logo. The signage, I think, looks wonderful. Any comments?
I agree. I like how it looks. I like the fact that revises the Wenham part a little bit at the bottom by saying West Wenham Playground. And I certainly support, your and your colleagues' rationale behind it. It sounds like
Okay.
a good thing to do.
I think they've covered it. You spent a lot of time trying to come up with these names and attach them to the history of the area. If you've gone through the process to get the appropriate feedback from the community and get that involvement, these have been on the books for a number of years here. So
Okay. Yes, thank you. We queried the committee. We did do some research on the Higginson name to make sure there wasn't any things we'd be overly concerned about. So I think we're in the clear on that. Well, so that's our recommendation.
I do like the green circle on the interior. Would that be the same?
I let Kate respond with Tom.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I like the green, I think makes it stand out nicely. It's my 2 cents.
Thank you very much.
All right, do you need anything else from us?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you very much, Ernest.
Looks like there's a gentleman in the audience who wants to speak.
Oh, did you have a comment? Sure.
Thank you.
Just please state your name and your street.
Okay. Dennis Markowitz, 15 Wallace Drive, The Boulders. And excuse me while I read this.
Sure.
We live a number of houses in from Pingree Park, not abutters. It is a quiet neighborhood. We hardly hear the traffic on 1A, but sound travels. On occasion, we can clearly hear the baseball game at the other side of the park. Children yelling and cheering and having a good time. It is music to the ears. In the time we have been at the Boulders, there have also been occasional pickleball games at the courts in question. The noise is entirely different. Ping, ping, ping. Okay, a little noise once in a while. But imagine how this would be if the courts were developed. Pickleball is very popular these days, and the courts could well be heavily used. You would not want this noise in your backyard, and we do not want this noise in ours. And it is not a question of the volume of the sound. Ping, 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 distracting, annoying, erratic. A degree of sound abatement will not change the nature of the sound here. In Patton Park, up the road, there are tennis courts that I have seen used for pickleball. The courts are along the road, by the open park area, not a residential area. If we want pickleball courts in town, that is the type of environment that is appropriate. You would not want these courts in your backyard, and we do not want these courts in ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I had a
Sure,
question.
go ahead.
Sir, I just had a request for you, actually, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you you giving your input. I can't say that I've actually ever heard pickleball noise myself, but I'd like to hear it because obviously it generates a lot of complaints. My email address is on the town website. My name's Ben Timon, and if you send me an email, I'll respond to it because I'd actually love to hear it. And so if you're home, you know, on a weekend or any day, and there's a bunch of pickleball happening, I'd like to come and hear it myself because I think that's the best way for some of us who have to make these decisions to actually assess
Yes.
the noise nuisance.
I would answer as follows. The courts are in bad repair right now. There are very few games happening, okay? When you have a game over there, occasionally, the other day I heard some noise. I went over, it was a parent and their child just playing a little bit, not much noise at all. If you really want to hear what pickleball sounds like, I often go to the Ipswich Y, and they have an extremely extensive schedule of pickleball.
Right.
Almost any time you walk in, you can hear it, and you can hear the real noise of a real game.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think just the experience of hearing what you hear from your distance and with, you know, the
Right.
topography,
Yeah.
excuse me, would
Sure.
be
sure.
helpful too. But I understand that right
All
now,
good, all good questions.
right now that it's a limited number of games that are going on, I guess, because of the condition of the courts. But
And you know, I didn't bring this as a slide or anything, but I went to the Y in Ipswich and made an image of their pickleball schedule. The number of hours, I can't give you the number of hours of pickleball that they have a week is simply incredible, okay? People love the sport, okay? And so I think that there's an issue here in that we are opening the cork on the bottle or Pandora's box or something by saying we're going to put pickleball in there, because it could become the love of the community to play pickleball there, and there could be hours and hours and hours of pickleball not totally anticipated today that would be the result of some fabrication there. So,
thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
thank you.
All right. Next, we have Historic New England is here to discuss a potential preservation restriction at 9 Maple Street. I believe someone is here? Okay. Is someone here?
Yes, Elizabeth from Historic New England is being promoted now.
Oh, great. Thanks, Joe. Didn't know you were there.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you see me and hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you yet.
Okay. Okay. Well, I will go ahead and introduce myself. I am Elizabeth Paliga. I am here on behalf of Historic New England, or the Society for the Preservation of New England Antiquities, to discuss Old Farm at 9 Maple Street.
Great, thank you.
If I could share my screen, if that is possible.
Yes.
All right. So I just have a brief presentation to kind of discuss preservation restrictions, and in particular, the restriction on Old Farm that we are here tonight to ask the select board to approve. So this is, I'm hoping you're seeing a photo of a beautiful property.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. You've already referred to it tonight, actually, as the Streeter property. This is subdivided out of the larger parcel that will remain undeveloped in the conservation restriction. So just briefly, Historic New England, if you're not familiar, is a 501c3 nonprofit charitable corporation created in 1910. We operate across the 6 New England states, and our mission is to preserve and share New England's history through our historic properties, landscapes, and collections and archives. We also operate a nationally recognized preservation easement program to protect privately owned historic homes. We're here to ask the Wenham Select Board to approve these preservation restrictions that you have before you on Old Farm at 9 Maple Street. We previously met with the Wenham Historic District Commission, who voted to recommend approval of these restrictions at their June 2nd meeting last week. Old Farm was originally built in the 17th century and was expanded as a colonial revival estate by noted architect at the time, Joseph Everett Chandler. In the early 20th century, he greatly expanded the footprint of the house as well as several interior upgrades. However, the post-medieval architecture that is the original is still extant, and it's paired with an elegant garden design by landscape architect Ellen Shipman. These create a beautiful, intact, and significant historic property. Now, before they sell the property, the Essex County Greenbelt Association, who currently owns it, are seeking to protect this property for future generations by donating a preservation restriction on the property to be held and administered by Historic New England. Under Historic New England's restrictions, the significant exterior and interior architectural features of Old Farm, as well as its landscape, will be protected against alteration, neglect, and also demolition. These features include wood and masonry elements such as sidewalls, doors, windows, shutters, roofs, chimneys, etc. But then interior protected features of the house include room configuration, framing members that you can see here on the left in one of the attics, plaster walls and ceilings, woodwork, flooring, and door and window hardware. Additionally, the gravel driveway and designed garden will also be protected. These restrictions will ensure that this locally significant building will be preserved. Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 184, Section 32, requires approval at the state and local level for a preservation restriction to be perpetually binding. The state, through the Massachusetts Historical Commission, has already reviewed the document and provided their preliminary approval, and now we are here seeking local approval. Without local approval, we will have to re-record this restriction every 30 years moving forward. So in approving this restriction, the town of Wenham assumes no responsibility nor accepts any liability for enforcement. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. That was very helpful, and I particularly enjoyed seeing those photos. What a beautiful property. Chris, did you want to add any comments?
Chris LaPointe, President, Essex County Greenbelt. I don't have anything in particular to add other than to say that I'm here if there are any questions, but we're really pleased to be partnering with Historic New England. Pleased, of course, to have partnered with Wenham on the acquisition and permanent protection of the vast majority of that land. And it's a unique opportunity to have a great conservation opportunity and a really nationally significant historic preservation opportunity coupled. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, and likewise, thank you. This was a tremendous amount of work on your part, on Kate's. There you are, Kate. And a huge accomplishment. This project is really amazing for the town of Wenham. So thank you both. Do we have, I'm definitely in favor of this. It seemed to be straightforward. All of this stays in perpetuity, was my understanding. Once it's all approved, stays with the property, regardless of what happens. Chris is saying yes. And Ben, do you have any comments?
I just had a question about the state of play on the ownership for the house. I just read in the real estate pages, I think, that it sold recently. Is that right? Or
Greenbelt purchased the entire property from the Streeters on May 29th.
Oh, including the
house and the cottage on Maple Street.
Great.
So at that same closing,
Yeah.
we conveyed conservation restrictions to Wenham.
Right.
So we now own everything, and we're under agreement to sell the house, the main house, subject to this preservation restriction.
Okay. Great.
Finn?
No, that was going to be my question too, so I appreciate you going into that detail.
Great. Thank you.
All right. I think this is wonderful.
Yes.
Are we ready for a motion?
Sure. I will move to approve the preservation restrictions for Old Farm, located at 9 Maple Street, Wenham, Massachusetts, owned by the Essex County Greenbelt Association, pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 184, Section 32.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to a vote. Finn?
Finn votes aye.
Ben?
Ben, aye.
And Deirdre, aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, Historic New England, for the presentation and for your work on this as well. I lost sight of you, but I think you're still
Thank you
there.
very much for your time this evening and for your approval.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Chris, for being here as well, and Kate, of course. All right. Now we are ready to move to item I, review, discussion, and a potential vote on the following CPC grant items related to the Wenham Museum, the HVAC and the Claflin Richards House roof, 2 preservation restrictions and 2 grant agreements. And who's presenting this?
This is Joe.
Joe? Okay, Joe, are you?
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Sorry I can't be there tonight, by the way, a little under the weather. But yes, this is 2 separate projects for the Wenham Museum that are being funded by CPA. I think it's just easier to talk about the Claflin Richards home first. That's just a recent project to repair the weathered roof that's been deteriorating for some time. So that was approved recently at town meeting as part of the CPA funding article. And there's also a separate project that actually dates back from 2021. And for a multitude of reasons, I think one of which was just it was during the COVID pandemic, and the project, from my understanding, just never got off the ground. But this is for the HVAC project at the museum. They also, the Wenham Museum had requested additional funding at this past town meeting, which was approved. So there's two grant agreements for that. The grant agreements are essentially a contract that the town, enters into with any kind of external organization that is awarded CPA funding. So there's those 2 grant agreements, and then there's also 2 preservation restrictions, kind of similar to what we were just talking about with 9 Maple Street. These preservation restrictions essentially are just, protecting the architecture, the facade of the 2 buildings, Claflin Richards home, and then the Wenham Museum itself for the HVAC project. These preservation restrictions have to go to the Mass Historical Commission for approval. So there's actually no vote needed on that tonight from the Select Board. It's just sort of before you for review or any questions you have. The 2 grant agreements, however, should be voted on if possible, so the fundings can be accessed for both projects. I will note, though, the town will be withholding 10% of the funding until the full preservation restriction paperwork is completed and approved by the Mass Historical Commission and the Select Board. So really, the votes tonight are just for the 2 grant agreements, long story short.
Okay, so the preservation restrictions will come back for a vote?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And similar to the prior one, it stays with the property in perpetuity, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding, yep.
Okay.
It came by a strong recommendation of town council that when realized that the Wenham Museum does not have any historic preservation restriction on the property, that if the town is going to be awarding them CPA funds, that they highly recommend that we urge them to pursue a historic preservation, which they're doing. And the grant agreement is contingent on them following through with that. Essentially to
that's
protect
great.
our
Yes, thank
investment.
you, Sid.
Yeah.
What do you suppose the timing would be on going through that and getting that?
What'd they say, Joe, over a year? Is that,
About a year for the full, usually takes about a year, sometimes if we're lucky a little less, like 10 months, but it's just a little slow moving at the Historical Commission. But that is what council recommended, just to, protect both properties.
So if we start the clock now, it's 10 months, so we'll be already to another town meeting at that point. And we're gonna repair the roof first, or?
I think my understanding is we're allowing them to proceed as long as the application is submitted, but we're withholding 10% of the funds until the review process is completed. So we're trying not to hold up their project because it's needed in theory to protect the structure that, we're trying to also protect with the preservation, but also protect the town's interests in ensuring that the historic structure stays historic and doesn't change, use, or I guess it could change use, but change the way it looks.
So from town council's perspective, it's enough that it's in progress and the paperwork's
Yes,
submitted?
we kind of try to work to come to kind of a mutual agreement and to not hamper the progress of the project, but also get the towns, give the town some teeth to ensure that it's done.
Great. Good catch by town council. Ben, any comments?
No.
Okay. All right, so we're not voting on that one. Joe, do you want to explain anything about the grant agreements?
Yes, please, we just need to vote on the 2 grant agreements, yep.
Okay, anything else about that, or we can just go to a vote?
No, just Steve had a good point, though. They are contingent upon the Mass Historical Commission approving the restrictions, the historic preservation restrictions, as well as the Select Board eventually as well.
Okay.
And this is the standard grant agreement that the select board approved, a standardized grant agreement that we implement for all our CPA grants. And should the CPC weigh in and request for changes, that's when we present them to the select board. But it's just the standard agreement with the historic preservation as outlined by Joe.
So as you look at the motion language here, this is sufficient to cover us with the kind of grant holdback?
Yeah, because it's all in the grant. It gets all spelled out by council in the grant agreement itself. So the grant agreement itself is what, authorizes the transfer of funds and any restrictions to pull the money back should they not uphold, if they weren't to complete the project or do a different project or, not get a historic, we're able to pull some of the money or all the money back from them.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'm ready to make the motion.
Sure, go ahead.
So, move to approve and authorize the execution of the Community Preservation Committee grant agreements for the Wenham Museum HVAC project and the Kathleen Richards House roof project as presented.
Second.
All right, we'll move to a vote. Ben?
Aye.
Finn?
Aye.
And Deirdre, aye. All right, motion passed. We are on to item J, which again is Joe, who's going to update the board on the climate leader progress, review our carbon roadmap, and request a vote to adopt the new electric vehicle policy.
Yes, thank you. Michelle has the slides, I believe.
Sorry you're under the weather there, Joe.
Oh, that's okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Joe. I think I might have started that.
Uh-oh. You brought it up.
No problem. All right. Okay. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Oh, actually, sorry, Michelle, can I have the PowerPoint that I sent earlier? So the slides, if you don't mind. Yeah, I emailed them a few hours ago, yeah. Yes, thank you. Just go to slideshow. Thanks. Yes, so this is just an update on climate initiatives for the town of Wenham. So the town has a long history of sustainability and energy efficiency investments. There's been a lot of great progress over the years, one of which has recently been the solar, mounted solar panels lease at Iron Rail. However, I'm actually going to talk about, there's a couple others here, weatherization, LED upgrades at some of the schools, Council on Aging, going to a heat pump conversion, and so on. I'm actually going to talk about climate leaders tonight because the town of Wenham is close to achieving climate leader status. We're already part of the green communities, which is very important. However, climate leader is definitely something the town has been after for several years now, and we're really close to getting it. There's 5 separate criteria that we're trying to achieve. We've already achieved 3 out of 5, so we just need the final 2 tonight, which I'll talk about in a second. Next slide, please. Yep, so the goals again will be to hopefully approve the municipal decarbonization roadmap that in large part was drafted by Vicky Masson, and also consider adoption of the EV or electric vehicle first policy. Next slide, please. Just an FYI, green community versus climate leaders. Green communities, there's over 300 communities in the Commonwealth that have this status. And this is a great title. It's a focus on energy efficiency, fuel efficient, and also competitive grants up to $125,000 for Wenham. We've already received over $1 million, I think it was in the previous slide, through green communities. Actually, I believe $500K went toward the HVAC project at Town Hall. But again, the town has been pursuing the climate leader status for some time now, and sort of the next evolution, I see it, of the green communities is an extension of that. It focuses on municipal decarbonization and net zero planning. By the way, decarbonization is sort of just trying to lower fossil fuels, greenhouse gases, where net zero is ultimately sort of offsetting whatever greenhouse gases come into the atmosphere. It's basically offset completely by humans releasing the green gases back out of the atmosphere. So essentially it's a net zero. That's why they call it that. And if Wenham were to receive a climate leader status, they potentially could open up to $1 million in implementation funding through grants. And again, it requires the town to meet 5 climate leadership criteria, which I'll talk about. Next slide, please. The 5 requirements are, the first one is form a climate action and sustainability committee, and this was established back in 2024. And this board has been amazing, just pursuing climate initiatives. They've worked on some of the solar projects. They've advised Steve and I on the HVAC project at Town Hall. They've done a lot of great things. So that's the first check. The next check was the climate resolution, which was adopted actually recently at the town meeting. The select board actually had approved this back in 2022, but at the advice of council, we brought it before town meeting to get the final approval. Hamilton had done this several years back, but we were able to complete the achievement at town meeting. And this is basically saying that the town will aim for a net zero goal, that net zero greenhouse gas goal that I was just talking about, complete that by 2050. The third criteria is a specialized energy code. This was approved at town meeting as well. Again, this is just for new construction. This helps new construction buildings become more efficient climate-wise. This was passed in April. And the two before you tonight is the municipal decarbonization roadmap and also the electric vehicle policy. Next slide, please. And again, Climate Action Sustainability Committee Forum 2024. These are some of the mission goals, promoting sustainability, resilience, and basically tasked with carrying out some of the master plan goals for climate initiatives as well, and identifying certain grants and sustainability initiatives. Next slide, please. The second criteria is the climate resolution. Again, this was passed at town meeting a couple months ago, and this was originally adopted by the Select Board in 2022. Next slide. Specialized code. So this, again, I just touched on this, but it applies primarily just to new construction. Wenham was already in the original stretch code. This sort of is an extension of that. This says that all electric buildings meet requirements automatically. Buildings using gas must provide infrastructure for future electrification. Install solar panels, but only where feasible. And larger multifamily developments must meet higher efficiency standards. I believe the Willows Flats in Hamilton falls under that category, and just reducing future building emissions, greenhouse gases in general. So this is the one of the two that hopefully will be approved tonight. This is the electric vehicle first policy. The purpose of this is to reduce municipal fleet greenhouse gas emissions through town vehicles. Again, this supports the climate leader designation, as it is one of the criteria needed, and it aligns vehicle purchases with decarbonization goals of the town. Next slide. So essentially, under this policy, there's 4 options. So it actually is, I put a list here. This is the sort of the priority list, starting at the top being the most preferable after we procure the vehicles. The first one is a battery electric vehicle. This is a fully electric vehicle, not run on gas at all, just purely by electricity. The next one is a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, or PHEV. This is an electric vehicle, but it has a gas backup engine. But again, it can be run on electricity and it can be charged by plugging it in. The next one is a hybrid electric vehicle. This is totally gas powered, although it does have a small electric motor to assist in improve fuel efficiency. There's no plug-in with this. And the final one is just a conventional gas vehicle, traditional powered by gasoline. It's important to note that this policy will have certain exemptions. Public safety will be exempt from this, police and fire. Also heavy-duty vehicles. Some of these would include some DPW vehicles, ambulances as well. And again, police are also exempt from this, although this could be up to the select board, is my understanding. Fire is automatically exempted, but drafting this up with green communities, they felt that it was kind of just cleaner to exempt all public safety vehicles, but this could be subject to the TAs and the select board's approval as well. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Joe, could you pause for a second? I was just wondering, as I look through all the exemptions there and I think about the fleet, the ambulance, the fire, the police, the DPW, the mowing equipment, all that sort of stuff that's exempt. How many vehicles do you think that the town has that would not be excluded from this qualifications?
I think there's, vehicles that permitting uses. Some of the, vehicles I think the chiefs, at least the police chief, uses as well. There are some smaller DPW vehicles as well that would, qualify under this. Am I missing any other, Steve, that I can think of?
You got it. Basically, admin vehicles.
So
yeah, right.
A dozen, is that would be a number?
I don't think it's even that high.
Okay.
I mean, I could think of maybe 2 at DPW, 2 at police, 1 at fire. We share the permitting vehicle. Eric's, so that would be, and he can maybe make an argument under the DPW exemption if he needs a 3/4 ton truck. I don't believe he currently drives a 3/4 ton. Mike Hardy, so what's that? 8?
8. Okay, thanks.
Just one question. The police cruiser exemption, that's under state law, I take it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Sorry, next slide, please. And the criteria number 5, again, this is the second of the policies. Hopefully they'll be approved either tonight or on the 23rd. This is a decarbonization roadmap. Now, Vicky Masson, in large part, drafted this. She's definitely the expert. I'm sort of just delivering this to you at sort of a high level. But essentially, this is actually helped, it was drafted also by the same consultant that did the electrification study several years back with the town for town hall, and I think some other buildings as well, but establishes the town's baseline greenhouse gas emissions using 2022 data to measure and track emissions reductions beyond 2022. Wenham is allocated 1/3 of the school district emissions. So essentially, as greenhouse gases emissions are decreased, we receive 1/3 of the benefit of that. So that's kind of laid out in the roadmap. Essentially in the roadmap, again, it's a quite dense document, but it does provide a building by building analysis of municipal emission sources, including the school buildings as well, and it identifies, prioritizes reduction strategies, one of which is just building weatherization, but that's just one example. Insulation is another, LED lighting is another, that some schools have already done. I believe Winthrop had done that. This mentions HVAC system upgrades. As you know, Town Hall had recently done that. So that's definitely a big step in the right direction. Electrification of water heating systems. Again, I mentioned the COA having the new heat pump as well. And just expected capital improvement schedules of all these buildings, sort of putting them at a certain priority over others, depending on how badly they need capital improvements, and the sequencing of upgrades, of those upgrades over time. Next slide, please. So, actually, can you go back one more, Michelle, sorry, to the roadmap? I just wanted to point out, one highlight of the roadmap was that the 3 buildings that have the largest emissions of greenhouse gases are the library, the Iron Rail building, and Town Hall. Now, again, it's important to know Town Hall just put in the geothermal or geothermal-esque system, so that hopefully will help offset a lot of the the carbonization. Iron Rail building, obviously, there's the Iron Rail best use study going on with the working group, so that's a relevant factor with that. I wanted to note that as well. And again, a library was one of the 3 as well with the largest emissions. The goal there is to have HVAC electrification by 2027, with the water heating electrification down the road in 2050, and potential rooftop solar. That was just a recommendation for the library, but there have to be, we'll have to talk about that a lot more.
They already have solar panels?
Yeah.
I think they already have solar panels on the roof.
The library does, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, the library does. Okay. Thanks for pointing that out. And yeah, so essentially the last slide, just hopefully the select board tonight will review and adopt municipal decarbonization roadmap and the EV first policy. And again, that will be the last 2 steps needed to finish out those 5 criteria to be a climate leader designation. Again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but only, I think it's 24 municipalities in the state have the climate leader designation. So it'll be quite the honor if we're able to achieve that. And there's one more, I think this might be for questions, the last slide. Yes. Thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. I'm a huge proponent of this achieving climate leader status, so this is thrilling to see these last pieces coming into place. I want to ask Sue Petrolia, who's here, from our climate action and sustainability committee.
Sue Petrolia from Wakask. We have 2 openings in Wakask. One we're potentially filling, but we would love to have another person join us. Very exciting. 2 comments on what Joe has presented. Thank you so much, Joe. The EV First policy is going to be in a policy to look at EVs first. Obviously, the state has given us lots of leeway because the infrastructure and the batteries and whatever's going on in the world doesn't seem to be in our favor right now for electric vehicles, but it is kind of what you all requested WCAS to do, which was to be just sort of move our eyes towards what we can do environmentally before we just decide to do what we're used to doing. So I think that's a really important key for that EV first. And I understand that we have the lawnmower that can do all of Pingree on half a charge.
Yeah,
That's
we
what
bought
I
that.
heard through the grapevine.
Yeah, I think this might be its second season in operation.
Dog walkers communication works really well.
That was Rich Souza's idea.
It's
He found it.
awesome.
Yeah, it's
Nice
working
and
pretty
quiet.
good. Yep. You still get the whir of the blades, you can't, but I mean, yeah, you don't have the motor for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The second is the decarbonization roadmap, which I believe Vicki got us a grant to through Green Communities, I think, or MAPC to have done. I've looked through it. It's a really great roadmap for Wakask and the town to sort of look at very clearly what we're thinking, what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and then focus one by one by one, because that takes a lot of work for someone to figure out. I do want to mention that in our communications with the regional school district and the solar and this and that and what's going on, and Vicki is amazing. We have a member of HEIC, Hamilton Environmental Group, at the town, and Wakask have been invited to be with the regional school district capital committee meetings. So that communication is really beautiful now. They're looking for help, we're looking for information and help, and now the three of us are working together. So
That's great.
the schools, which are a huge part of our emissions, both towns, and with all the plans they're making, we have we'll all have the same information and be rowing in the same boat. So I'm thrilled about that. Thank you very much. Please vote yes.
All right, any questions for Joe or Sue?
No, I wanted to point out, I'm in support of this. I've got solar panels on my own roof and a solar farm up in Maine, so I'm definitely all for this. I just want to point out the language of this is mostly, it seems to be mostly guidance, and for us to be, doing our best to do it, but within reasonable constraints and budgetary constraints. So this is not obliging the town, as far as I can tell, to
Correct.
make major investments in the short or long term, but it is our goal to do it, and we are going to, especially with the town's recent vote, do our best to achieve it, but we're not, obliging ourselves or requiring ourselves to outlay huge amounts of money to achieve these in the short term. So I think it does both gives us that target and that aspirational goal, but also gives us flexibility to handle our budget and get there in our time, in our best time. So I'm in approval. So thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Finn.
I fully support it as well. I'm excited about it, and I know that there's a lot of people, Sue being chief among them, and Vicki Masson, who have worked really hard on this over the years. But I also want to recognize my colleague Deirdre, because you've sort of been tour de force on these issues in the 3 years that you've been on the select board, and have really kept us focused from a policy perspective, and first getting the first criterion, then 2, 3, and now we're going to do 4 and 5. So it's really a great achievement that you've quarterbacked. So I want to thank you for all the work and commitment that you've put into getting us close to achieving this climate leader status.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot, actually. All right, did I hear you correctly, Joe? We're ready. The electric vehicle policy is ready. I thought you said there was still some work tweaking to do on the roadmap. Is that correct? Or are you?
I actually think the roadmap is good to go. Vicki was tweaking a little bit of the language for the EV policy. It's just more procedural, but I can, we might have a cleaner copy for the next meeting. Just we're hoping to get it definitely approved by the end of June, though. So if we could get a vote by the 23rd, that'd be amazing. But the roadmap, is my understanding, is good to go.
Wait, which one?
The roadmap, the carbonization roadmap.
Okay. So she still wants to tweak the electric vehicle policy slightly?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
So you want us to hold off on that until next meeting?
Or
what do you think, Steve?
I think if you're ready to adopt it and you feel like you have enough information, then go ahead, or we can bring it back. Additional information is certainly also fine.
Opinions? I think,
I think, if we have a meeting in 2 weeks and we can have a document that, is clear and doesn't have, comments and edits and bubbles all over the place, then I'd be more comfortable.
okay. All right, so let's do that with the electric vehicle policy. And we prepared to approve the roadmap?
I am, although I confess that I'm not certain that the final version of that is in our
Bring them both
packet.
back.
You want to bring them both back?
Questions?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so why don't we,
Digest. I think the bulk of the discussion just took place, and
Mhm.
we'll clean them up and.
yeah, I think we're basically fine, but clean copies
Yeah.
would be great for next meeting, and then we'll approve those.
Yep.
Sound
Up to the
good?
board, whatever you folks want.
Okay.
Great.
All right, nearly there, Sue.
I think the deadline is June 30th, so that's what Vicky's working towards.
Okay, we will,
Application deadline, so as long as it's before that, I think we're
all right, we'll do that. All right, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Feel
Appreciate it.
better.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, so those will be back next time, and now we have item K, so I apologize. I think you've been waiting for this. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. So we have item K, we have plat du jour for a 2-day extended liquor license for Friday, June 12th and Tuesday, June 16th. Do you want to come up for a moment?
It's just by background, sorry, before, so the select board's aware. So the legislature just recently passed some special legislation that can be put into effect until July 31st of 2026. So this is, I believe, just for the soccer games that are taking place, but it allows the local licensing authority, which in this case is the select board, to opt into this special act and allow requesters or establishments to stay open up to 1 hour later than their traditional closing time. So the request is from plat du jour for 2 dates to stay open that additional hour for, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so I did an email with Joe, so some of the facts weren't there at the time. I just said to him, we were asking the question, and I had said, the first 2 games that are presented at 9 o'clock, we would like to air. So those are only the first 2. Obviously, there are other 9 p.m. games which are coming up. I have a list of them, so they're not included in this. We would like to extend it through, obviously, the World Cup. There are a handful of games that are at 9 p.m. We were looking to extend till midnight because I don't think they'll be over at 11. It is obviously the state's gone till 3 a.m., which I don't want any part of. We would like to be able to air the 9 p.m. games because, say there's a 3 and a 9 in the same day. We don't know that we're going to get the crowd or the attention on it, but we're excited because we're really big soccer fans and kind of want to get the community more interested in it because we haven't had it here in a really long time. So it is a big ask because it is an extension to a liquor license that's already been established. Right now we're at 10 p.m. And we were hoping to get midnight only on the days that the games are on at 9 p.m.
Our council, again, this just came through yesterday.
Yeah.
I think it passed. So the ABCC, we did reach out to them. They deferred us to our local council for any advice. And their interpretation is that the LLA, the local licensing authority, can only grant 1 additional hour past the normally scheduled closing time.
Okay.
So in this case, if it was 10, they only have the jurisdiction to grant until 11.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yep. So if I would think, I'm not exactly sure how long these games go, but we would stop serving liquor at 11, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's correct.
Yeah.
So right now, it's just for these 2 dates? And you would have to come back for additional
Yeah,
dates?
one of the other games, the problem is the next time they meet
right.
is.
Yeah, I have the list of the other games. So I looked up the 9 p.m. games. When we first talked about it, I just mentioned, because he was asking kind of what I meant.
Yeah.
And I said the couple that I see coming up were the next week. There's Friday the 12th and Saturday
Yeah, so
is the 13th.
Yes, the request came in, I think, Friday.
Yeah.
We amended the agenda with these 2 dates in anticipation that the legislature may pass
Right.
between then and today, and they did yesterday. And so I guess it's up to the board's comfort level to pass additional dates within the motion.
Sure, so what are the additional dates?
So they are June 12th and 13th, which we're talking about, and then June 15th. And some of these dates right now, Plat du Jour is not open on Monday and Tuesdays. We haven't yet decided if we're going to open for them, if we see that people want to do it. So these days may be mute, but the Monday 6:15, Tuesday 6:16, Thursday 6:18, Friday 6:19, Sunday 6:21, and Wednesday 6:24. And then after that is like, I don't know what you call it in soccer, playoffs or the next matches that come along that haven't been given times yet.
So we have our next meeting on the 23rd,
Yeah,
so.
that's what I was just gonna say, yep.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, so, I think it probably makes sense, like, it's a good number of days, a good
Yeah, it
number of
is.
events.
I didn't realize that either. Just pulling up the soccer schedule myself, there are a lot of 9 p.m. games. I didn't realize there were so many.
Yeah, the other thing Michelle just pointed out, just reading from council, so the LLA also has the authority to grant, essentially, hold on, a blanket extension to an establishment through July 31st, 2026. But what it doesn't specify is whether that's effectively a daily liquor license, or you already have alcohol license, right?
Oh, yeah, till 10 p.m.
Yeah, okay, so that clears that question. All right, so in this case, it would just be, the select board does have the option to grant a blanket extension for Plat du Jour to open 1 hour later than normally scheduled through July 31st, 2026, or it can go by date-specific days. It's totally, both options are totally within your discretion.
So my count here is 7 days out of the next 14 would be, are covered by the dates you just gave us. But it is just an hour. And if we kind of went through the end of, until the next select board, I don't see any members of the community objecting to this. I don't know that they've been notified, but we'll probably hear from them at our next select board if we have a problem, and then we can decide whether to extend it into the, the playoff portion of it. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. So this would be maybe a blanket extension through, I don't know, I'm sure you're advocating for blanket extension, but an extension through June 24th is in that. I realize we meet on the 23rd, but the 24th being the next day. But if we were to extend through the dates on the 24th and then have it on the agenda for the 23rd and consider then whether
To do the full blanket?
to do the full
Right,
Finish it
okay.
up, yeah.
blanket.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's a good plan.
So should we do a blanket through June 24th or just the specific dates that you mentioned?
I would do a blanket. It's only 1 hour. I think this is great. I hope you get interest. I think
We're
that
really
would be.
excited about it. There's a lot of interest, so we even have customers coming in and asking, are you guys going to show the games? And I'm like, I can't commit to 9 p.m. games if you want to drink, And we don't have heavy drinkers over there. It's a more social, fun, family stuff. But I do want to be able to do that. I don't want to say to somebody at 10, sorry, and that's really all we're asking for.
And you'll be inside, so this shouldn't contribute any
And the
additional
patio.
noise.
It would be on the patio as well.
Is that an issue? It should be
We do that
I
fine.
don't hear
Okay.
any
now.
concerns from
Yeah, I guess I would just
received any.
be mindful of the noise. It's supposed to, it's
Well, we
quiet
have
hours
events
at
on the
10.
patio all the time now anyway.
Okay.
And they end, obviously would end by 10 now with liquor. But we never get to that hour. I don't think people want to hang around that late in this town anyway. But if they're interested in a 9 p.m. game, then we'll be there.
All right, I think, yeah, I'm good with
sounds like
it.
We're all on the same page.
Sure. I agree.
I can take a crack at a motion to approve Plat du Jour extended hours for its liquor license of to 11 p.m. beginning on Friday, June 12th through June 24th. That's it.
I'll second.
Great. All right, Finn?
I'll vote aye.
Ben?
Ben, aye.
Deirdre, aye.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
We're bringing some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds great.
We're excited. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, we'll finish it up at the next meeting.
Thank you.
And thank you for your patience. I apologize that you had to wait.
That's fine.
Okay, so now we're on to old business, which is a continued discussion and
Spreadsheet.
potential vote to authorize the police chief to hire an additional patrol
Yeah,
officer.
but
So we'll discuss where we are with this issue. Steve, are you presenting?
yeah, I'll present, myself and I believe the chief
The
is here.
chief here?
If you want to promote him to, yeah. All right, so I figure I'll start that, just by way of background, we talked about this a little bit 2 weeks ago, but just as a refresher, currently the police department is down one full-time patrol officer. So the department is in hiring efforts to fill that single spot. The police chief, came to me and brought to my attention that they have two very qualified candidates that is somewhat of an anomaly given the market today, and so and both applicants have gone through the academy and are trained and all of that stuff, which is costly and timely for a community to do in the result that they don't have it. So we started looking at the request was really twofold, to add to look at whether we could fund part or all of this position through overtime, because the idea is that we're adding one regardless, but we're comparing adding the one to adding the two. And in theory, at least initially when we started discussing it, was that from a purely financial perspective, could the second hire be offset by the overtime? So the department has a significant amount of overtime. In part, it's the nature of policing. There is, every police department has an overtime line item. We're also a little unique in that we're a partially part-time department, which was about a decade ago was 20 plus part-time officers. Now we have 3. So it's not that we have an increase in overtime as much as it's our ability to fill the overtime with lower cost part-time officers is getting less and less. So what an overtime event that what could be filled at $25 or $30 an hour is now being forced to be filled with a full-time officer, which is $65, $70 an hour. So this, and the chief will go in, I'll go through the finances, but so this was coupled with also the illustration, which was in the memo that we reviewed last time, was all the all the stuff that's non-monetary associated with hiring, moving more towards a full-time police officer. I don't want to get too much into it because the chief is going to provide an overview, but that goes to the professionalism of the department, preparedness, having folks fully trained and doing it full-time. It just makes a lot of sense from a proper policing perspective. But so just looking at high level, so we looked at it 2 ways. I want to give full credit to Ernie, has really rolled up his sleeves and has gone through the police department staffing budget in a way that hasn't been done before. So kudos to him, and we've certainly been able to have a much deeper understanding on how the overtime works and things like that. But so just we looked at it 2 ways. One was how much did we budget for, and what would we look like next year from a budgetary perspective, but also what are the total costs to the town. So in both situations, if we, you know, the one hire, which is going to be hired anyways because we're down one officer and we need to fill it, we're estimating, again, bunch of reasonable assumptions that were, you know, the tires were kicked and proved with through the FinCom, which by the way voted favorable action on this, 2-1. So 2 in favor, 1 opposed. So with those assumptions, we're looking at roughly, you know, $19,000 under budget next year. With 2 hires, you can see I tried to illustrate where the kind of buckets moved with, you know, a lot of the money is coming from salary reserve. The 2 hires would realize some departmental efficiencies. We think we can save through part-time jobs that we can eliminate and realize some additional savings. But at the end of the day, it's about $4,300 under budget. So question 1 is answered. You know, if can we do this where we've already budgeted, we've appropriated, we don't have the ability to raise more money. That ship has sailed, so to speak, at town meeting. Like, would this, with under reasonable assumptions, come in under? Do we have enough money for it? And the answer is yes, by about $4,000. Again, there's a lot of what ifs, right? The assumptions going to prove true. Are we going to have additional military leave? Are we going to have any additional long-term disability, which has been pretty common in the department the last 2 years, right? We don't expect it to continue to repeat itself, but it could. But you know, but then at the end of the day, what, you know, we looked at, you know, how much is it, but what does it really cost in the town? So basically, the additional cost, and this is where the select board is being asked to weigh the benefit of what the chief is going to tell you of better policing, worth the additional $15,000, because, you know, apples to apples, this is costing us $15,000 more. We do have the budget, but you know, is it worth it to the select board? And Chief, I don't know if you want to, you know, go through the preparedness and you know,
So
just
before,
basically.
Before you hop off the budget, I appreciate the FinCom kind of coming together and being able to give us that opinion on how it affects the budget. So that's really valuable as we come to our decision. Could you help me understand the last 2 rows there that are really eating into the you know, significantly better than you know, the $41,000 versus 19, and it drops down to 40.
Yeah. So what we did was we took so the PR taxes are payroll taxes, and then the possible additional benefits and the possible additional pension. So we just looking at those numbers are inverse. It should be 23 under benefits and 13 under pension. But so basically what that is it's assuming the individual would select a family plan. So that's the cost to the town. And the $13,000 is a fairly rough, but I think reasonable assumption as what it would cost us in additional pension contributions by adding an extra full-time employee. So you're right, those 2 are large dollar amounts, but you know, they're not there under the overtime scenario that currently exists, because they're being filled by existing FTEs.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on the finance before we?
I do, although maybe one that the chief is better equipped to answer, but where the rubber meets the road here is really the reduction of the projected reduction of part-time salaries. So I'd like to understand a little bit better if we'd go with the 1 hire and $60,000 is projected as the reduced line item for part-time. What does that translate to? Like, how many part-time officers are we talking about? Are they people who are currently in place? Are they people who would become full-time? It sounds like not, based on the fact that the 2 potential hires are already are not with the department presently, as I understand it. And then versus the line item shrinking down to next to zero, $3,000 for 2. So does that effectively mean there would be no part-time officers and is there sort of a plan in place for, like, what would that mean? Are there people who are part-time now that would no longer be with us? And so I just kind of would like to understand how the part-time force will change based on these two different choices.
Now a good time for me to jump in?
Yeah, do you have, I mean, I can add, you can talk about, there is one position over there that would be eliminated to fund this. It's a part-time. And then as far as but that's non-officer part-time. But then right now we only have 3 part-time officers. Chief, you can weigh in as to how that's going to change. My understanding is that it doesn't change much. They're not taking many. We're way over budgeted in that line because they're just simply not taking many shifts to the tune of a couple a month or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, a few years back, the part-time academy no longer exists. We're talking about 5 years now. So the remaining reserve/part-time officers went to the part-time academy when it's still in place. For an agency now in Massachusetts to hire a part-time officer that's not already certified, it would have to be somebody that goes to a full-time academy now that chooses to be a part-time officer, which really doesn't happen anymore. Through attrition, because of this no longer having a part-time academy, we stopped bringing them on like most agencies in the area. Perfect example is Hamilton just actually did away with their part-time officers. They no longer have any. We're down to 3. The current collective bargaining contract that's in place with the union does still have some situations that address a first right of refusal specific to certain types of shift coverage that part-time officers are entitled to. However, what's happening quite often, no fault of their own, all 3 our remaining part-time officers have other full-time jobs, and they're phenomenal. And candidly, all 3 that are in place now, the last probably 4 or 5, if not more, full-time openings, they've been offered the positions first. It just doesn't work for them at the current time. So they're very highly thought of ethically and work product wise. They're essentially, one of them is able to work a little more. He's averaging probably a couple shifts a month. The other several are averaging probably 1 shift a month, and we do have all those numbers broken down pretty clearly. I've been open, honest, and direct in my almost 10 years here now that full-time policing was the route that I think is more productive, better policing, a better model for the citizens of Wenham. I've always said policing isn't a hobby. It's a full-time commitment. It's a livelihood. It's something that affects families, and it affects the proficiency of an officer to do the job more effectively through training, through muscle memory, through atrophy of certain skills that completed on a regular basis. Those skills can kind of dissipate a little bit. And so when this situation presented itself, my original thought when I approached Steve, and if I haven't already, I know I mentioned it last night with the FinCom, how appreciative I've been with Steve and Joe and Ernie, and certainly the FinCom for hearing me out on this. But when I did bring this forward, it's because of the situation that presented itself relative to having 2 full-time certified candidates present themselves, one with prior policing experience. I believe it's about 6 or 8 years. The other is brand new. However, he is academy trained, which in and of itself, it's about a $3,200 savings, just the academy costs. And then aside from the time to get an officer on the road, from when you first start a background to when they're cleared to be on their own, you're looking at about a year if I were to have an applicant walk through the door that has no prior policing experience. So it's literally about a year from soup to nuts to background, psychological, medical, field training, academy, before they're able to actually assume the role of filling shifts by themselves. So when this kind of showed it on in our lap, if you will, I looked at the line and I looked at the I believe it's $105,000 in our reserve salary line, and I approached Steve with it and I said, hey, listen, let's take a hard look at this. And as we started crunching the numbers, and Ernie really did an incredible job doing so, that the plausibility of it happening seemed more realistic, and that's kind of where we got where we are today. Hopefully that answered some of them.
Makes sense to me, and I think I'd be in favor of this. I think I'd like to see something ahead of the next town meeting that kind of reconciles our actuals versus this estimate, since we are going a little bit beyond what we explicitly had voted in the town meeting, but it is still, below, in both cases, below our what we were authorized for at the town meeting. So. I think I'd be in favor, but I'd like to see that estimate versus actuals.
Yeah, and that is the plan. Well, it can be for town meeting, but it was just to keep an eye on over time, and make sure we're tracking true, because next year, like every year, but it's getting increasingly difficult. Every year is a tough budget year, and things are getting tighter and tighter. We did, just to add, we did get an opinion from council. Lauren Goldberg reviewed our warrant, our motion, and deems that this is under the select board's authority to do this, given the way the motion is taken and the appropriation for the expenditure, that it's within your power to do so. And it's not like you're taking a risk and doing something outside of. I agree that you could argue that you are adding a person because you are adding a person, but legally you're within your authority to act on this, within the appropriation awarded to the town through town meeting.
I support it too. I think it's important to communicate to the community, however, as the chief has done and does very, ably in his public statements at meetings and so on, that the addition of 2 full-time officers is being made possible by the effective elimination of part-time officers, just based on the very low projected cost for part-time officers once this goes forward. So I think it's important to communicate that there's an offsetting staffing change here, and that the overall effect is not quite budget neutral, but pretty darn close. So I support it.
Okay, and likewise, I think from a policing standpoint, I 100% support this. It does make me a little bit anxious how slim the margin here for error is. So that does give me some pause, but, go forward we must, and take one thing at a time. So I will also be in support of this. Any other discussion?
Only a question about the motion. So is the motion, as it's written here, to authorize the chief to hire 1 additional patrol officer because one's already been authorized, or are we saying 2?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it also, just to remind, the board is actually the appointing authority here, so it's really just the police chief to move forward in the process, the hiring process. The ultimate appointment is you folks.
I anticipate, hopefully, at the next meeting to have, one is already ready to go and the other one will be ready. I would have two names to present to you on the next agenda, assuming this is a go.
All right, so I'll make a motion to authorize the police chief to move forward in the hiring process for 1 additional patrol officer full-time.
I'll second.
All right, great. Let's go to a vote. Ben?
Aye.
Finn, aye.
And Deirdre, aye. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
And I'll echo the thanks to Ernie as well for some tremendous work in short order, so we appreciate that.
And per usual, thank you again for your support and the town support, and thank you again to everyone involved with helping us take a real forensic breakdown of making this a viable option. So thank you again.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, last item on the agenda is just to review the onboarding and orientation guide for the Select Board that I presented last meeting, and potentially approve it with a vote.
Yeah, we did so Finn forwarded over this afternoon that we're able to squeeze in oh my God, the name escapes. Oh, the treasurer. We were referencing that back when we were originally calling it the treasurer, but the treasurer is the officer on the board. The bylaw amendment that was made that required in board organization that any board that has a budget nominate which was originally a treasurer, but then was changed to financial officer. This still referenced treasurer, and it also did not have the job duties in it, so I added that.
So those changes were also submitted by Diane prior to today, so I'm just wondering if her other changes are also in here. Because Diane corrected that, actually.
She did?
Yeah.
Then I don't know. Maybe we'll just have to do it next. I'll have to do it.
Right, they're not.
I'm not sure how the versions, there was so many versions, I guess, going back and forth, but I thought we had the most recent.
But I know, I'm almost certain that was one of the things Diane corrected, so I think we might be missing a couple of edits.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so I did go through it. Though it seems like a very short document and very intense, it references so many other things that, it's like a table of contents really on a library of information behind it. So, there was the version that I had was still talking about the treasurer. I think I saw a version a week before that mentioned the financial officer, but then had a bunch of literally question marks saying, we need to put in the language specific. So I think we're kind of closing that loop. And I think if there's anything else from my comments, I think that the idea of recommendation to speak with the chairs of the various committees to kind of get up to speed is great, but there are not quite 50 of them, so I think it'd take a week of a week of Sundays to basically make that connection, which would give me something to talk about at the beginning of every single one of these meetings of what I heard from them. So just coordinating that would be a bit of a challenge, but maybe I'll talk to Steve about figuring out a way to.
Well, the old language did recommend that you meet with everyone, but I had changed it to make it a suggested list. Yeah. So that was the intent, that you then select from based on either gaps in your own knowledge or specific interests that you have, because Ben and I tried when we were elected at the same time, and it was extremely difficult to get to everyone, which we were not able to achieve. So that's why it is now a suggested list.
Yeah, so we'll have to go back, because I think,
we'll
the version not to belabor the point, but the version we used incorporates Diane's formatting, but I think that it got back to her, either she sent the version, an old version that she formatted.
Okay, all right, so
so apologize for the confusion. We'll go back through, tick and tie it, make sure it's updated.
So why don't you and I make sure that
I'll spend some time.
It's the right versions with all of the comments.
We basically just took the version that was.
Because I know what version I'm talking about.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so Steve and I will get the correct version with all of the comments incorporated, and we will just very quickly approve it at the next meeting.
That's great.
Okay. And then the last agenda item, I just slightly reworded just to open it up, that if any of current and future board members would like to suggest future agenda items, you have an opportunity to do that in this last agenda item. So that's just a slight shift. So if there's anything you'd like to suggest.
Not right now. I think I've got some time scheduled with Steve, so I'm going to go over a few topics that I'd like to cover, and we'll see if they rise the level of being on the board agenda.
All right, and Steve can convey that to me also.
If I may, I just wanted to put out another reminder to the public to please exercise your democratic
Thank you.
right to vote on a week from today, Tuesday, June 16th, for the 5th and open select board seat so that we can have a full board. This is for the final year of the currently vacant seat. So please get out there and vote. And if you're not able to vote on Tuesday, as I'm not because I'm out of town, see the town clerk about an absentee ballot.
Yes, thank you, Ben. We have 2 exceptionally qualified candidates on the ballot, so please come out and support them. All right, we look forward to welcoming our 5th member. Okay, I think that's it. Next meeting, as we said,
June 23rd.
June 23rd. And with that, I believe,
This is Peter's role.
it's Peter's not here, so
Yeah, I know.
you have to fill the breach.
I will move to adjourn the meeting of the Wenham Select Board at 8:25 p.m.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Finn,
Aye.
aye.
Thank you, and good evening.